The teaching as a whole puts a lot of clarity on things that have happened before, puts concepts to things that we've sort of understood but we haven't had a clear way of relating to it or describing it. So one of the concepts in the teaching that's very important, the flow of life is always pleasure or pain. And it's a description that circumstance is always going to be either pleasure or pain. It's inevitable. If we understand that, then we're not going to start resisting life when it delivers pain. We resist life when it delivers pain when we have a concept that life could be pleasure, 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 pleasure. This concept is saying, look, the flow of life is always going to be a mix of pleasure and pain. That's the nature of the flow of life. And it's a very simple, concise concept that allows us to see something as it really is. People are going to do things that deliver pleasure to you, and people are going to do things that deliver pain to you. It's not possible to control everything all of the time. So it's sort of common sense when we think about it to see, yes, life is always going to be a mix of pleasure and pain. Add the next concept that says your happiness is not determined by pleasure or pain. Your happiness is not dependent on pleasure, 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 pleasure. So that means now life can be sometimes pleasure and sometimes pain, and my happiness is still available because my happiness is not dependent on life being pleasure, 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 pleasure. So then it goes on, your happiness is dependent on your attitude towards the pleasure and pain. What is the attitude that currently adds a layer of suffering on top of the inevitable pleasure and pain of circumstance? And we'll find, if we look, the attitude is always an attitude of personal doership. I am the doer, the other is the doer. And an attitude that says my happiness is dependent on pleasure, 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 pleasure. So that attitude means that we're in continual resistance with life as it unfolds, in continual resistance with the predetermined story of life. So what your brother did to you 40 years ago, that delivered a lot of pain, can be seen in the light of it being part of the unfolding of the story of life that neither yourself or your brother was in control of. That your brother was just an instrument through which life delivered pain to you. Pain that was destined to be there. So if we start to see the other as an instrument through which life is functioning, rather than as a separate, independent entity that is in control of everything that they think, feel, say, and do, our attitude to the other can change radically. This is particularly helpful, I think, for parents who have children. Child is just an instrument through which life is delivering you your destined amount of pleasure and pain.